Hey friends, I want to talk about one of the rules that I have for myself, or it's really a rule of thumb. It's a guideline. It's not, I don't like rules, but I love this rule. I love this rule of thumb. I love this guideline. And that's very simply to ask every question. That's the easiest way to put it. Ask every question. As you may know, I have this tattoo that represents curiosity to me. It represents following my curiosity, knowing what I'm curious about and exploring that. But it also specifically means to me this rule, this guideline to ask every question. I want to ask every question that I'm curious about, to honor my curiosity in that way and see what happens. And that may sound straightforward enough, but often, increasingly even, as I follow my curiosity, my questions might be hard to ask for a few different reasons. For one, they might be kind of weird and unprecedented, like, oh, I've never asked that kind of a question before. I've never heard someone asking that question before. That's a strange question. What are they going to think about that? Are they even going to understand it? Sometimes a question is really important to me, and I have to communicate to someone what I even mean by the question and how to answer it before they can even receive it. But those questions are really good to ask. Similarly, it might be uncomfortable to ask, like, I feel embarrassed to reveal this simple question. What does that word mean? Or what do you mean by that? Or can you tell me more about this? It might be sort of simple, right? It also might be very vulnerable to reveal something about myself or to inquire something about another person. Sometimes questions are very personal. And, I imagine that in the past I've had experiences where I was curious about something and then someone shamed me for asking that. Maybe you've had an experience like that. And the perspective that I've come to have is it's about boundaries, right? I have to respect the other person being willing to say, no, I don't want to answer that question. And the other person needs to have good boundaries as well of like, hey, I don't really want to answer that question. But I think I come across this way when I ask questions, actually. And if I'm uncertain about the person's capacity for their own boundaries, I try to be like, hey, I'm going to ask you a question. It might be kind of weird. You might not want to answer. If you don't want to answer, no problem. Please don't answer if you don't want to answer. But I am curious, and so I want to honor my curiosity by asking this question. And so in the moment, it can be kind of uncomfortable or scary to ask any number of questions. But I'm curious about it, and I have this guideline, this rule, to remind myself to be courageous in that moment and actually ask the question. And without fail, if I ask the question and they answer it, the ones that I'm scared to ask, or the ones that are weird questions that I've never asked before, or that my intuition is just telling me to ask, even though I don't conceptually understand why, those are the questions that really change a conversation, or that really move something in the other person, or that I'm really inspired by, or that I really learned something from. And those questions are gold. And if I kept them locked in my body, in my throat, in my heart, without asking that question, it would be an unkindness to myself and a disservice to them and a disservice to the world, because something moves energetically between me and another person, and really the world, when I ask that question, the one that was scary, the one that was weird, the one that was unprecedented, the one that I don't fully understand why I'm asking, that question is gold. So that's why I have this guideline. If I'm curious about it, I ask it. It served me well so far. I love asking questions. I love following my curiosity. I love the answers that people give me when I'm willing to be courageous and ask the question. And my life just gets increasingly interesting and more complex the more I learn about the world. And every conversation is an opportunity to learn. Every conversation is an opportunity to grow, to see things anew. And being willing to ask questions is part of that. Being courageous to ask questions is part of that. And I've really benefited from this guideline.